Hey guys, welcome to the next episode of the Nerd News Desk. I know, 2 in a row. Can you believe that? It's crazy. All right, so today we're going to follow up a little bit on COPPA, or COPPA, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it COPPA just because I like Copacabana, and for me that's going to work. But I did have a few people message me with some more questions and wanting a little more clarification, so I am going to show some things off today. I figured out how to get a screen share to work on here so I can show you some stuff so you can get a better idea of what I'm talking about as far as the COPPA rules and things like that. But also, I promised yesterday I was going to read the Star Trek Picard comic, and we would talk about that a little bit today. So I did read that, I did finish it, and I did look up some stuff about the TV show coming out, so we can discuss that for a little bit. And again, if there's anything else that you want to talk about, anything you want to see, whatever, let me know. Drop a comment, send me an email, dirt@popculturenetwork.com or dirt@thepopc.net, dirt@dirtmound.com. Where else? Twitter. I don't check Twitter very often, but I guess it exists, so you can go there or leave a comment on YouTube, on Facebook, in the official Pop Culture Network group, on the video on YouTube, whatever. You got ways of getting a hold of me. And most of you people know how that works. So, enough. Let's get into it. Talking yesterday about COPPA, one of the things I was talking about how there are certain channels that are obviously geared towards children, and the problem is whether or not people who do toy reviews, video game reviews, things like that, they're afraid that their stuff might get incorrectly flagged as a channel for children, even though it's not. So I wanted to bring up some of the examples from the FTC and some of the things that YouTube has pointed out as a way to show that it's more than just you talk about toys, or it's more than just you talk about video games. Yes, kids like toys, kids like video games, but just because you're talking about them doesn't mean that you're falling into that category of a channel directed at children. So we're going to take a look at some of these so that you can kind of get a better idea of what exactly we're talking about here. So pull up first here the Mattel channel. Now, Mattel was named as one of the people, just like Hasbro, about how their channel is made for kids. Now, you can look at this channel right here and you can see they're a toy company, so of course there are toys. But if you look, it's kids playing toys, kids playing with toys, kids playing with toys. They're using, bright colors. They're using these animated characters. They're, again, here's kids, kids playing with these things, kids doing these things. These are all obviously geared toward children. And when you think about it, it's a toy company. Yeah, they're going to be geared towards children. Even if you look at some of the stuff that's WWE, that's wrestling, but it's also geared towards children nowadays. I mean, let's face it, it just is. So, again, here's a child on there. But if you notice, there's a lot of bright colors. There's a lot of blue, a lot of pink, a lot of things that just pop out at you to grab your attention. And that's by design. That's trying to grab the eye of children. And that's, what it's designed for. Hasbro, very similar. You can see here Hasbro. It's kids playing with the toys. Kids playing with the toys. Everything that they're doing here is, aimed at children. These animated characters, it's not just the fact that they use animated characters. It's not just the fact that there are toys. But you can see that the way that their channel is put together, the different things they're showing, these are obviously geared towards children, the way they have them working together. Now, those being commercial run organizations like you expect, okay, a toy company, it makes sense. Toy company is going to be gearing their stuff towards kids. That's how it works. But what about some of the other channels? What about the channels that talk about toys? They're not selling the toys because a company, of course, is trying to make the money off of selling this stuff. But what about the other channels where they're reviewing stuff and talking about toys and whatever? So we've got a couple that we can take a look at here. And again, here's one, Toy Scouter. This is one of the ones that was also named in the FTC complaint. And you can see that, again, it's using these characters. It's head, shoulders, knees, and toes nursery rhyme. That's obviously for little kids. Sing-along video. We've got Learn the Letter D. That's another sing-along video. These things that are showing toys, it's not just the fact that they're showing toys, but they're geared, again, towards children. The the bright colors that they're using, the way that they speak in some of the videos. They're talking like little kids sometimes to the little kids. These are the things that all together point to the fact that this is a channel aimed at children. But another thing, if you go to the About, it says we strive to entertain kids. Like, there you go, right there. It is obvious right there in their name that they are a channel directed at children. Animated characters, obviously kids animated characters. So kids characters, it says it's for kids. It's videos aimed at kids. So not just that they're talking about toys, but they're talking about toys specifically towards children. Here's another one. Fun Toys Collector Disney Toys Review. This is the one from Brazil. I spoke about this a little bit yesterday, but you can see, again, the bright colors, the characters here that are aimed towards children. There's a lot of stuff using the animated characters to draw people in to watching these videos. It's more than just the fact that they're talking about toys, but they have these things set up in a way that's drawing kids to take a look at them. And again, you go to the About section. Review for toddlers, babies, infants, and preschool children. So again, it's pointing out that this is directed towards kids. It's different than just someone who does toy reviews all day and just has a bunch of toy stuff. Actually, let me see. I don't even remember. I am more people than I actually watch. I don't even know what some of these are. But okay, so let's take like ETA Prime. He talks about video game stuff and electronics. You can see here his stuff is not doing the same stuff. There's no animated characters on here. A lot of them are black and white or white and yellow. They're not using a bright pink. He may have some blue here. He may have some red and orange, but those kind of go with the content of the video as opposed to getting someone to take a look at it. So if you look at these, little kids are not going to be going, ooh, the new NVIDIA Shield stick is leaked. Wow, I better look into that. It's obviously not geared towards children, even though he's got some of that stuff there. Let's see, who else was there? Was someone else. I think Iceman Traveler was somebody. He messaged me. If you take a look at his channel, and his videos, again, yes, he's talking about video games, but none of these are built in a way that are designed to draw little kids into it. The thumbnails are there so that you know what he's talking about, but it's not using big animated characters trying to draw little kids in. And even though, yeah, he's got one here for Yo Noid, that was the character in the game, the channel as a whole is not directed towards children. And even this video is not necessarily directed towards children when you go through and look at it, especially because it's an hour long of him playing the game and talking about it. That's different. But you can see that this channel is not designed as a channel to draw a lot of people in. Or draw a lot. Sorry, not draw a lot. I didn't mean to say not to draw people in, but not to draw little kids in. Sorry, that was not intentional. Didn't mean it to come across like that. There was another one. I was going to show Grimmy. There it is, Grimmy's reviews. If you take a look at Grimmy's channel here, you can see that, yeah, again, he's talking about toys. He's doing a lot of toys, and toys can be stuff for kids, but these aren't thumbnails designed to draw little kids in to take a look at this stuff. Even when he's talking about Factory Ogre Ooze, and you might think, oh, little kids might want to watch that, but it's not put together as a way to draw preschool or toddlers, 9-year-olds to come in and look at it. And his videos, again, aren't acted and conveyed in a way to draw that attention. So that's really what we're talking about when just because you have kids stuff, or you talk about stuff that might be something that traditionally would be for kids, like toys, that doesn't necessarily mean that your channel is a channel for kids. So we've got the commercial sites the Hasbro, the Mattel, those are clearly trying to sell toys to kids. Those other sites like Toy Scouter and the Disney Review, whatever, those are designed to draw in kids, and they even say it in their descriptions. This is a channel for kids. This is a channel for preschoolers. So that's who COPPA is worried about. Now, if you say, okay, fine, I'm going to flag my stuff as being not for kids, but then the YouTube algorithm might pick something up and say it is for kids, well, then you dispute it. And that's really no different than the disputes with the copyright. You file the dispute on the claim and it gets lifted and everything's fine. And in fact, I just did that last night. I went through a bunch of my videos. I had stuff I didn't even realize had popped up. I did a review like 6 years ago or whatever on the Crisis on Two Earths animated movie, and Warner Brothers Home Entertainment had flagged it as it has their content. Well, yeah, it's got clips of their content in it because I'm reviewing the movie, so I disputed it, and within hours the dispute was off. They had actually taken the revenue during that time, so then since they released the claim, I actually get that revenue back. So I'm actually going to have a chunk. Now, it's not a widely viewed video. It is on my channel as opposed to the one on the Pop Culture Network channel, so it doesn't have a ton of views on it, but still, that is a key thing there to remember, is that you will be able to dispute these things. And so far, I've never disputed one. I don't think I've ever disputed one and lost one. The only ones that I've really... Marvel used to send out these promotional videos, and Marvel would say, like, hey, host this video. And it was talking about Deadpool's going to be appearing in the Spider-Man animated series. And you're like, okay, so throw it up on the channel. Hey, guys, look at what Marvel's doing. And then Marvel would flag it as being their video. Well, no duh, it's your video. You emailed me and said, share this video. So, yeah, it's your... So, whatever. So I stopped. I was like... What? I stopped sharing that stuff. So, yeah. So those are the main things to keep in mind. You have to be fully directed towards kids. It's going to be very clear which channels are for kids, which videos are made for kids, and which ones are not. So the only thing I would suggest is if you have some... and I guess here's the other thing. If they flag it as being directed towards kids, you're not going to get fined for having a video directed towards kids. If it is directed towards kids, excuse me, you're going to lose out on the targeted advertising, which makes more money, and you're not going to get the comments and you can't put them in a playlist, right? But that doesn't mean, but the FTC is not going to come and fine you because you have a video that's for kids on a channel that's not for kids. It just means that one video has YouTube restrictions on it. And again, you can go in and dispute it and get that taken off of there. So that's not a worry point for that. The main worrying aspect is if you are making kids videos, but you're saying they're not, so that you can get the better ad revenue from the targeted ads. And then they find out that you've been doing that. You're making money off these videos that you're not supposed to be making money off of, or not having those more lucrative ads on it. Then you can get into trouble. But that's because you're making kid stuff and saying you're not. If you don't, and they flag it as it is, but then it's clearly not, you dispute it. And again, they're not going to be looking so much towards one video on a channel or one video on a playlist. They're looking at channels that are offenders. So you might have an entire channel that's not for kids, that you say is not for kids, and you click one, you're fine. In fact, there's a spot. I sent someone a video or an image last night of the box that you click. Let me pull that up real quick. Nope, not that conversation. Because there's a spot, you go into your settings on YouTube, and you click this setting that says it is not for kids. There it is. So here it is. So you go into your settings, general channel upload defaults, community, and you can set as being safe for kids or not. And here you can see this is part of that COPPA thing. So you say, no, it's not made for kids. I never upload anything that's made for kids. YouTube, when they're going through and looking, if you have it flagged that it's not for kids, and then suddenly their machine learning system finds 500 videos on your channel that they deem are for kids, that's when you're going to run into a problem. But again, that's going to be looking for those bright colors, the sing-songy, speaking along, sing-along stuff, the using the small words for kids. Like when you watch something, if you've ever watched like an episode of Blue's Clues or something, like, you know, in a kid's program, they talk to kids in a different way than you would have a normal conversation, you know, and that's the type of thing that they're looking for, as opposed to just generally having a conversation. So that's a big part of that as well. So again, keep that in mind. It is not as big a thing to freak out about as everybody has been saying. Okay? So again, if you've got more questions, you've got more concerns, you want to know how things work, you want to send me a message, that's fine. Go ahead. Like, I spoke to several people yesterday. I'll talk to some more. It's not that big of a deal. Anyway, someone's trying to argue with me about the Watchmen TV show. It's not good. And I'm sorry, but it's just not. Okay. Anyway, we're going to move on from that before we go on. Okay. I did read Picard. Talked about that a little bit yesterday, that I would read it. I did take a read through it. And it is an interesting little book. Now, you can see here, it's Picard Countdown. Picard, this is the new series that's coming from CBS All Access. Although if you're in other parts of the world, you may find it on Amazon Prime Video, and then I think places in South America, Brazil, and some of those markets, it's on some other streaming service down there. But otherwise, most of the world is going to have it on either Netflix or Amazon Prime Video. Or, I'm sorry, Netflix, or not Netflix, Amazon Prime Video or CBS All Access. Anyway. But you can see here that they've marked it Countdown, which was the same name they used for the series that connected the storyline of the Next Generation to the J.J. Abrams movies. So if you saw that comic series, it had the same name, Countdown, and this is a similar type of thing. They are tying this comic book into the TV show. And so, what do we have here in this comic? Well, what we have is Picard. He's on his new mission. This is... the character's name is Raffi. I forget who the actress is, but she's actually on the TV show, although she's quite a bit older than I think the artwork makes her look here. But she's an actual character that's going to be from the show. She's the second in command on the ship, the first officer. And what we have is a story about Romulans. This story takes place before, let's see, 1 year before. This takes place before the supernova. So if you remember in the story of the Star Trek movie, Spock talks about how the sun for Romulus and Remus, the sun was going to explode, go supernova. They were trying to find a way to save it. Ultimately, they didn't, and they opened the wormhole, and all that stuff happened. Whatever, with the time travel. Well, this is before that supernova happened. So this is going to give you kind of a bridge between Nemesis and that Countdown story. Then you read that Countdown, and then you go into the Picard series, I believe, because the Picard series is 20 years after Nemesis, and Countdown was, I want to say 10 years after Nemesis, roughly. I'm not sure 100%, but something like that. So yeah, this is going into a time period that hasn't been explored, but apparently whatever happens in this is going to push towards whatever's happening in Picard. Okay, so going back to here, you see here's Geordi. We have some Romulans here. These are Romulans, and they're talking about how Picard was there to save them. We got the Chateau Picard logo over here. Geordi is apparently rebuilding a lot of the ships from the fleet. Let's see here. Okay, he talks about that, and then here's Picard. So here we see Picard. There's that new image of the uniform. It's interesting. One of the things that the TV show talks about, because I haven't, for the last, I'd say maybe two and a half years, I've been trying to slowly kind of pull myself out of a lot of the entertainment and comic book news, because I was learning things so far in advance that it was spoiling things for me. So a new TV show would come out, and I knew all about it before it even started. So then I'd watch it, and there weren't really a whole lot of surprises and things going on. Same with new comic book series and things like that. And I lost some of that joy of discovery of when stuff comes out. And so I don't pay attention to a lot of comic book solicitations anymore, so that I can be a little more surprised as the stuff comes out, of what's happening with the characters. And there's some things that you just can't get away from. They're still there, whatever, but for the most part I try to stay away. So I didn't know a whole lot about what was going on in the Picard series. But it says in the Picard series, one of the things he's recovering from is the loss of Data in Nemesis. But the problem is, we've seen that Data is back up and running because of the other robot that we saw in Nemesis, which was, I believe, B4. So B4, had all of Data's memories and whatever implanted in him, and Nemesis ends with Data whistling that, or B4 whistling that tune from Data, showing that he's assimilating Data's memories and he's becoming Data. So Data exists in the form of B4 with Data's memories, so he's become Data. And the other Countdown series showed us that he is actually the captain of the Enterprise. But yet, when Picard, the TV show, says that he's dealing with the fact that he's lost Data, and it also talks about how, in this particular series, he says something about how the Enterprise is in good hands. What good hands? Unless he's talking about like Crusher, maybe doesn't Beverly become captain of the Enterprise in the flash forward that we saw in All Good Things, the finale of Next Generation? So maybe I don't know. It's I'm a little confused with this timeline stuff and how everybody fits together. But nonetheless, there's Data on the Enterprise from Countdown, and you may say, well, that's the comic. That's not really the show. That's not canon. Except the whole point of IDW's new run with the comics is that people from the shows are overseeing the comics, so stuff in the comics is canon. Like in was it Into Darkness? Was that the second one? Star Trek Into Darkness. They talk about they need a ship so that they can get down onto the Klingon planet and not look like they're Starfleet and whatever, and so they get the ship from the Mud incident or the Mud encounter. If you remember, Mud from the original series, Henry Mudd, that story with Mud and with that ship and them getting control of that ship actually happened in the comics, and it was just a normal story going along in the comics, and then suddenly it's a plot point in the movie because the people working on the TV shows and movies are overseeing the comics so that nothing contradicts. These are all supposed to be canon. So that's a little awkward to me as that plays out. But what this story actually is Picard is going around and he's trying to evacuate the Romulans from a bunch of their outposts and colonies in their solar system or nearby solar systems, because the sun is going to go supernova, which again is something that they talked about in the Countdown series, how that came together. So maybe this is after that Countdown. No, wait, no, I don't remember. Anyway. Again, I'm really confused about all these timelines and the stuff that's coming through. But Picard is trying to save the people. He finds this colony that was unknown to the Federation. It's got some Romulans on it. He goes down to save them, and then he finds out that the Romulans aren't the only people living on the planet. So they were going down to evacuate the Romulans, and then they find that there's like millions of these other beings that live on the planet, and so now he's got to try to figure out how to save all of them. The Romulans, of course, are just like, no, only save us, let's go. And Picard's like, no, I kind of need to save everybody. That's why I'm here. We got to try to figure out how to get as many of these people off of here as possible, which of course angers the Romulans, and that sets up the problem leading into the series. So it's only a 3-issue series. It's not a long series. And it's, I don't know, I kind of wish it was a little bit longer than 3 issues, because four is usually what you shoot for, because that makes a good trade. 6 makes a thick trade, but you can do 4 in a trade. 3 makes it kind of tough, unless they're hoping to get 3 to get them out quickly so that they can collect it and have it on the shelf at Barnes & Noble by the time that the show premieres in January. So maybe that's the thought behind only doing 3 instead of 4. I don't know. Regardless, though, it did read pretty good. Mike Johnson, writer on this, I believe the main writer, Kristen Bayer and Mike Johnson. I'm not familiar with Kristen Bayer, although maybe that name was in there somewhere else. But I know Mike Johnson has written a lot of the Star Trek comics for IDW. His name has been credited on a lot of them. And I believe Alex Kurtzman, who was on The Walking Dead. I don't know if he's still working on Walking Dead, or maybe he left Walking Dead. He's working on all of the Star Trek stuff, which unfortunately includes Discovery, but all of that stuff on CBS All Access. And he is overseeing the stuff that's going into this. So hopefully that makes it, much more of a cleaner package of what's all connected together there. So it's good. Like, I'm definitely going to recommend, if you're a fan of The Next Generation, or if you're a fan of Star Trek in general, if you're only a fan of the reboot Kelvin timeline, obviously this is not going to be for you. But if you're looking forward to the Picard show, you definitely want to pick this up, because again, we are seeing characters like his first officer here, who is in the TV series, and the stuff from this is going to lead into the TV series. And if you get the variant cover, you can even get a shot of him and his dog. That's something there, huh? Can we? Yeah, we can zoom in there. Look at that, Picard and his dog. I just want to show all about Picard's dog. I'd probably watch. That'd probably be better. Let's cancel Discovery. Let's just do a show, Star Trek Picard's Dog. And I'd watch that show. Retailer incentive photo cover. Ooh. All right, then. So, okay, so that's what's coming out. That's coming out tomorrow, Wednesday. I probably won't do a show tomorrow. School's out early, dealing with a lot of that stuff. And then, of course, Thursday's Thanksgiving. So I hope to be back Friday. My son wants to go out for Black Friday stuff. We'll probably go out, of course, they all start Thanksgiving night. So we'll probably go out Thanksgiving night, and get up early, go out and do some stuff Friday morning. So I'll be back Friday afternoon at some point, maybe talk about some of the stuff we pick up for Black Friday and whatever. And then I'm sure you guys will have more questions and comments between now and then. So hopefully we can incorporate some of that stuff in there. So I'm going to end this video now by saying, hey, look, I'm not asking you to like. I'm not asking you to subscribe. I'm not asking you to hit the bell. I'm not asking you to share this video. The only thing I ask of you is that you remember this one thing. You're watching the best looking guy on the internet.